Hey guys, it's me again. I wanted to make an update on my Herald of Agony Occultist using Doedre's skin. I'm now level 94, I just hit 94, and I've made quite a number of changes since the initial build video that I posted, so I just wanted to kind of go over the optimizations. First thing I want to address is, just like in the Death's Oath Occultist, everybody's asking this question and everyone's commenting this, and one person actually said I was spewing misinformation, so I'm just going to get it out of the way now. Yes, I am low life, even though I'm CI. I'm using Coward's Legacy. Coward's Legacy gives me you count as on low life while you are with vulnerability. Okay, now that's out of the way, let's continue. Just to go over my build here and the changes I've made. Big thing I've changed is I'm actually using a conductivity and presence instead of a despair and presence. So now I'm running 9 curses. I'm still running despair. I'm just using despair out of my Witchfire Brew now. So that's kind of the big change there. So my only despair now is in my Witchfire Brew, and instead of despair I took that out, and now I'm using conductivity in my Heretic's Veil. And I needed one additional curse because I am now blaspheming an additional curse, so I took out my unset ring and got this Doedre's Damning with 14 all res in the implicit because I am super short on resists, barely enough cold res, just enough actually. So I got that ring, and I'm just running Discipline in my Heretic's Veil right now. That may have some room for optimization, but for now, that's how I kind of have it. Big thing I also changed was I took off my Wind Shriek, because all those boots aren't bad. However, I felt that the losing 250 energy shield was just a really big hit. If you look at my last video, I was only at like 7.6k ES. Now I'm at like almost, well, yeah, as you could tell, roughly 1200 ES higher. So I took off my Wind Shriek, so I'm using a Doedre's Damning instead for the +1 curse, and I am getting getting that increased area of effect through some other means, essentially. I did take an AoE hit, which kind of sucks, but I felt that losing the energy shield just wasn't worth the 60% increased area of effect. So I did that. So I'm running these boots now here. They're pretty nice. I made some changes to the tree. Essentially, I pretty much up here. I unspec'd out of this area of effect, so I lost another 20%. And then I unspec'd out of these. I just put this up here, and now I'm running through this way. And I picked up Elemental Overload because it's essentially just another 40% more damage. Since this is a non-crit character, it's just 40% more damage on my Ball Lightning, so it doesn't hurt at all. The other big thing is, in the last video, I was using Scorching Ray as my channeling skill. I've now replaced that with Storm Burst. Storm Burst is just far more applicable. When I was doing that last video, I just kind of put the build together within the last 24 hours, and I just didn't really have anything optimized. So Storm Burst is much better because, first of all, it's lightning, so it can also poison. It is also a projectile. It's also AoE. And so we have synergy with all of those things, all those tags. So Storm Burst is 100% flat outright better channeling skill to use. So I'm using Storm Burst now, still cast while channeling, still Ball Lightning, still poison. I actually played around with taking off poison and putting in arc instead. So I'd be cast while channeling 2 different skills, but I found that while arc was better for clearing, just general mapping and clearing, when I got to bosses, I couldn't keep up my virulence stacks really well, and I just really tanked on my single target damage because my my crawler just didn't have enough stacks. So I feel like the poison really is pretty necessary. Other big thing is I picked up a Dying Sun. This build now is in the realms of very insanely expensive because now I have an Azira's Deflection, I have a Dying Sun, I have a Coward's Legacy, and I also actually switched my Doedre skin out for this one. This one has 50% reduced extra damage from critical strikes, which is another layer of added defense on top of everything else I have. So I actually Varici 350 Val Orb and 350 Jeweler this thing. So it definitely wasn't cheap. I actually dropped like 3 Exalts on this chest. So I've put a lot of money into this build at this point. Still some room for optimizations, but it's pretty expensive with where it's at now. So still, the build essentially still, like in the last video, revolves around stacking all this different damage for my curses. I'm now also running Elemental Weakness along with Conductivity, as I already mentioned. This gives me negative 44% lightning resistance plus another negative 42% lightning resistance. So essentially, the enemies are cursed with like negative 80% lightning resistance. Which, if I understand correctly, is basically a more multiplier, so it's 80% more damage. Along with Elemental Overload and along with Pain Attunement, Ball Lightning actually does a crap load of damage. Along with the fact that I'm also still using Projectile Weakness, and I'm also using Assassin's Mark and Poacher's Mark. Poacher's Mark with each charge is also 4% more damage. So I believe I have another 12% more damage there. So while these curses may seem kind of weird and everything, this build actually gets a crap load of damage from these curses. So with the 80% more, another 30% there, that's 120% more, plus 40% from Elemental Overload, I'm pretty much at 160% more damage for my Ball Lightning, which is essentially a 6-link, more or less, because if you count each gem as giving about 30 to 40% more damage, it's more or less a 6-link. So it's insane. And I have poison on this too. And I also have my Herald of Agony, so that's not even counting my Ball Lightning, which is pretty much a lot of my damage. I'm still using the Herald of Agony, I'm still using the Crawler. The Crawler also benefits from Assassin's Mark, Projectile Weakness, Poacher's Mark. It also benefits from my Dying Sun because my Crawler also gets 2 additional projectiles. I get 2 additional projectiles, so when I cast this guy, I pretty much just cover the whole screen with bunch of projectiles, bunch of lightning damage, bunch of virulent stacks. So it's just insane. And my defensive kind of, I guess, capabilities of this build are also through the roof at this point. Because I still have Enfeeble, I still have Temporal Chains, I also have enemies are unlucky from damaging me. I now also have 50% reduced extra damage from critical strikes. Not to mention, I also have Maddening Presence when I kill a rare or unique enemy. And I'm still getting a bunch of other stuff in terms of defenses. I have a lot of stacked evasion. I'm still using the Smoke Cloud increased evasion there. And yeah, and I'm not affected by curses. So this build is pretty bonkers at this point. For mapping, it's pretty great. Oh, I also have Permanent Onslaught, and I also get 100% increased damage from my sword. I tried to find an upgrade for the sword, but nothing really beat a Dreadbeak. I tried to get like some minion damage, a rare like minion damage scepter with more damage when on low life or something like that, but nothing really stood up to Dreadbeak, so I'm still running the Dreadbeak. So the build is pretty insane at this point. The only little upgrade I need to make, pretty much my biggest upgrade I need to make at this point, is probably drop the Conqueror's Potency and instead get a Energy Shield Watcher's Eye with Energy Shield gained on hit. That would also just, again, add another insane layer of survivability, because that would give me a ton of sustain because I'm doing a ton of hits. And if I get 30 energy shield per hit I don't know what the hell can kill me, actually. Like, it's pretty nuts. So, yeah, this build's, I'd say pretty broken at this point. I'll run another map for you guys here whoever's actually still watching. I'll do one of these ghettos. Yeah, that's fine. Unfortunately now, though, with all the damage we have with Ball Lightning, I can't run, Ellie Reflect. It just kind of hurts too much, so I don't run it. So we just curse, and we just shoot our Ball Lightning, and move on with our lives. And it's pretty darn good.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
And actually, this is my first map I'm doing with Dying Sun. I just bought the flask right before I started this video, and I could definitely say that it's pretty insane. In terms of how far I've gotten, my Atlas isn't like super done, but I definitely do plan to go into some higher content. I've gotten up to T12, T13 maps, and it's honestly not bad at all. It's quite a breeze. So yeah, this build's just kind of getting really, kind of starting to snowball in terms of all the different interactions it has. So I'll definitely keep going with it. See how far I could really push it. Yeah, but this is essentially how the build works. My single target is still primarily mostly coming from my crawler. However, the Ball Lightning absolutely helps. Anyways, so yeah, that's pretty much the build here. I'm gonna finish this map later. As always, if you guys have any questions or comments, just leave them in the description below. I'll throw in my path of building and my profile link to the description. Some other options, if you guys really want to do this build but can't afford these crazy expensive items, you don't necessarily need a Zero's Reflection. What you can do is, if you still want to do the low life thing, but you can't afford the Zero's Reflection, you can either run 2 Kikazaru rings, or you can use a Watcher's Eye that has unaffected by vulnerability while affected by determination. So that'll pretty much cancel out your vulnerability, so you don't have to worry about that. Just keep in mind that other curses will really hurt you because you have 50% increased effective curses on you. So it's definitely best to run this belt with a Zero's Reflection. However, if you really want to do the low life thing, then I would suggest just get one of those Watcher's Eyes, or maybe get the Kikazarus. That works quite well also. Other than that, I think that's really all I have. My Pantheons are here if anyone's curious. I'm just using Soul Lunaris, and I probably actually do need to get some of these other abilities, and I'm using Soul of Abrath for the Reduced Ignite and Burning. This is primarily so I can start my Energy Shield recharge faster. So that's kind of the reason for that. And I think I'll stop the video here, and I'll probably do another update and maybe like 1 or 2 levels, see what happens, or if I die. But yeah, thanks guys for watching. Thanks for sticking around if you made it to the end of this video, and I'll see you guys another time. Bye.